Okay, in this particular chapter, we'll be talking about systems instructions. So systems instructions enables you to steer the behavior of the model based on your specific needs. So when you create a systems information, you have to provide additional context to that particular model so that it understands the task that it has to perform. So by the end of this chapter, what I'll do is I'll create a systems instruction that will enable the user's text to be converted into a different language. So I'll be creating a GCP cloud function. Now you could use either AWS or Azure to do the same as well. If you're using AWS, you can use Lambda to do the same as well. So for this example, I'll be using a GCP cloud function. The input text, let's say if it's in English, will be converted, let's say, into another language called French. So let's look at the console and let's see how this is done in the UI first. So once it's done in the UI, later on, we'll create a cloud function application to do the same use. Okay, so I'm back in my console. So we can either use freeform or chat. You can just go to freeform, and here is where you'll find your systems instruction. Now there are a lot of sample systems instruction that you can get from the prompt gallery as well. So if you click on the prompt gallery, you can just click on the features and just click on has systems instruction, and here you'll get a variety of prompts that use systems information. So you can just check out some of these and you can use them accordingly. So here are some of the more complex systems instructions that you can find. So let's go back to our chat and let's write a very simple systems instruction that will just convert text from, let's say, English to Spanish. So let's click on edit, and all that I'll write is just say that convert the input text from English to Spanish. Okay, now let's click on apply, and now let's just input any text. So let's just input hello world and click on send message, and you can see that it gets converted into Spanish. So any text that you will give as input will automatically be converted into Spanish because of the systems instruction. Okay, so the next thing that we will do is we will convert the systems information into an API so that you can use it in your web application. So there are many tools that you can use. You can use your GCP cloud function. You can use Lambda or any other platform as well, any other cloud platform as well. Now, the easiest way to do it would be to just write in your prompt to create a cloud function. So let's actually try that before we proceed. So I will just write create a cloud function that would have this systems information, and it should be written in JavaScript because that's the language of my choice. So let's click on, before that, let's just remove this. So what I'll do is I will just write the proper prompt. So make sure that you're using the most powerful model that is available. So it's right now the model Gemini 1.5. Let's use the Pro version, which is probably the best. Okay, so what I've written is I've written a prompt which says create a GCP cloud function that uses Gemini Vertex AI using systems instruction that converts input text from English to Spanish. Let's click on and let's see what we get. So here the problem with this output is that it's basically using an obsolete library. Now I think the problem here is that the model was trained on older data, and at this particular time there is a better library, or there's a better SDK that we would need to convert this into an API. So this is basically an obsolete piece of code and you shouldn't use it. And that's true for any prompts that you're using which requires coding as the output. Make sure that you give a particular sample as an example along with your prompt as well. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. So here what I'm doing is I am going to the GCP documentation, and under the systems information for Node.js, I'm using this particular sample code. So I'll just copy the sample code and let's just paste the sample code. And what I will write is based on the above sample, create a GCP cloud function. So basically what I'm writing is that based on the above sample code, create a GCP function which contains instructions to convert input text from English to Spanish. Now, if you look at this example, this is a very simple Node example. So this is not a GCP cloud function example. So what I'm doing here is basically using that same example, using this particular example, which uses the latest library. So this particular piece of code will work. So using this latest library, I'm going to use this particular code as example to convert my example from a normal Node application to a GCP cloud function application. So let's run this. So here you will get the correct code. So you can just read all the explanation. So what you need to do is you need to replace your project ID in this code with your appropriate project ID. So I will just copy this and let's go to our GCP Cloud Function. So let's open our GCP. So here I've opened my GCP Cloud Function. So I'll just click on create function and let's just run this using the old version of Cloud Function. And let's click on save. Let's go on next. And let's just copy this particular piece of code. I'll just copy this. I'll remove this. So the one thing to note is you need to make sure that the entry point is correct. So the entry point that is mentioned is this particular entry point. So this has to be copied and pasted over here. Now this is very important, else your function will fail. So let's copy this, paste it here. And the next thing you need to do is, again, you need to mention your project ID. Now to get your project ID, you can just click on this, copy this, and just paste it here. So now the next thing I'll do is I will create the package.json file also. Now I'll ask the Vertex AI to again create the package.json as well. So let's just also just create the. Okay, so this is the package.json. I'll just copy this and I'll paste it. Now here you can read all the explanation as to why which particular dependencies are being used. So I'll just copy this. So everything looks good. Let me just check everything. I'll go to the index.js file. Looks good. So everything looks good. So let's just deploy this function. Okay, so the function has been deployed. So let's just test this. So here, if you go to the source, you can see that you have to give this as the key for your particular message. So let's copy this, go to testing, just change this. And let's just have the hello world as an input as well. Let's click on test the function. And here you can see that the hello world got converted into Spanish. Now, if you want this to be run on AWS or Azure, just send me a link or just send me a comment below and I'll do the same as well. So that's it for this one. I'll see you in the next.